It's Saturday. And babes, we are in Salem.
Snark Squad, welcome back. We love you. We are so grateful and thankful to have you here.
And babes, this mini vacation has been everything. We've got the wine on deck, and we are so excited to be here.
Because we need to talk about last night, the ghost tour. Babes, we met our guide on Essex Street. Shout out to Ben, an icon.
An absolute unparalleled icon. Like, honestly, the crisp October air, the cobblestones under our boots, the glowing holiday lights stringing across those historic squares. It was entirely a vibe.
It really was.
But the stories. When Ben took us past the old burying point, the way he described the energy lingering there.
Yeah.
I literally got full-body chills.
You were terrified.
I was. Like, I am emotionally available for a whole lot of reality TV mess, but stepping into those historic, dimly lit spots felt incredibly heavy. You could almost feel the weight of everything that happened centuries ago, you know?
Right.
I was clutching my coat, jumping at every single shadow, literally convinced a spectral judge from 1692 was going to, like, ask me about my screen time.
Which was high comedy to watch, by the way. Look, you know me. I am the ultimate skeptic.
Oh, well, you know.
I walk into a ghost tour, actively looking for the hidden Bluetooth speakers in the bushes. I'm sitting there timing the theatrical pauses for dramatic effect. And yes, Ben gave us theatrical perfection.
He did.
But I have to admit, secretly, I lived for the drama of it all, the atmosphere, the unwavering commitment to the bit. It was spectacular.
Wait, you actually liked it?
I did. I mean, I was silently questioning the historical accuracy of every other sentence in my head, but I was fully, completely entertained. The sheer theatrics of Salem at night is just, it's unmatched.
Because after the tour, we went to dinner. Encore Restaurant. Dave's, it was so good.
Stuffed burger sliders, poblano spinach dip, wicked shrimp pasta, apple caramel martinis.
Well, my goodness, we need to have a serious conversation about that poblano spinach dip.
It was ridiculous.
If I could legally marry a dip, that would be the one. I would sign a prenup with it. It was so rich, so deeply comforting, exactly what my frayed nervous system needed after dodging imaginary colonial ghosts for 2 hours.
In the freezing cold, no less.
Right. I would reorder that immediately, and honestly, I might try to get it shipped to my house. We were practically rolling out of the leather booth. We were so painfully full.
The apple caramel martinis were dangerously good. The kind of good where the sugar completely masks the liquor and you forget there is actually alcohol in them.
Until you try to stand up.
Exactly. Until you try to stand up to use the restroom and your knees briefly forget how to function. And the wicked shrimp pasta, beautifully seasoned. But honestly, the best part of the entire dinner wasn't even the menu.
No, it really wasn't. And we have to give a massive shout out. Snark Squad member Angela, babes, sliding into our DMs, joining us for the ghost tour and dinner. We love our people.
We truly do. Having Angela there, breaking down reality TV mess over shrimp pasta in the middle of Salem, perfection. It just proves that the Snark Squad is a lifestyle, not just a listen.
Yes, but now we are back. And babes, for good measure, we are burning sage, because if any spirits followed us back to the Airbnb, they need to go home immediately.
Look, I am looking at this smoldering bundle of dried leaves right now, and I am highly doubting its efficacy against anything other than, like, creating a light draft of smoke alarm anxiety.
Neighbor.
But I am indulging you because every single time the floorboards in this 19th century Airbnb settle, you jump 3 feet in the air and clutch your wine glass like a protective talisman.
It's a very old house.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, we walked through some highly active spiritual zones for over 2 hours. The paranoia is incredibly real.
It's just a house.
I heard a thud upstairs earlier, and I am pretty sure my soul temporarily left my body. I was ready to pack my bags and call an Uber back to the airport right then and there.
It was the ice maker dumping a fresh batch of cubes.
You don't know that for sure.
I literally watched it happen, but by all means, keep your protective energy up, because honestly, nothing we saw on last night's ghost tour is as terrifying as the ghosts haunting the marriages and friendships in Huntsville right now.
Oh, that is so true.
Let's channel that paranoia into something far more chilling. The calculated psychological warfare of reality television relationships.
Babes, we are full, slightly haunted, and very ready. Let's get into the episode.
Let's unpack the mess. Season 11, Episode 9 of Love and Marriage Huntsville. Sip happens, And sips certainly did happen.
It really did.
We have an entire sociological study of delusion, performative healing, and deflection to get through. And we have to start with the masterful, deeply uncomfortable television that was the Fletcher family interrogation.
Oh my God, this scene gave me palpitations. My heart was entirely in my throat for Kayla. So let's lay out the setup. Nell and Lance invite Kayla over, and it is so clearly, transparently a trap.
Completely.
It's not just a casual hangout. It is a beautifully staged, multi-layered ambush designed to catch her off guard.
It was choreographed with the precision of a military operation. Like, let's really break down the staging of this confrontation, because the environment tells you everything you need to know about the power dynamic.
Paint the picture.
Nell is outside, working hard in the yard, sweating, actively getting patted down with a towel. Lance pours her a lemonade. They are having these supposedly casual adult beverages and making breezy small talk about daycare enrollment.
Which was so fake.
So fake. The visual they are creating is, we are the relaxed, stable, hardworking patriarch and matriarch of this family. And then Lance just casually, almost too casually, drops the bomb.
I actually invited Kayla over. Nell's face. You could see the gears grinding. She was trying so incredibly hard to play it cool, to maintain that matriarchal composure, but the tension was already radiating through the screen.
You could cut it with a knife?
Because Destiny and Lance had caught wind of a massive rumor. The rumor that Kayla, their daughter, is currently dating Twan, who just so happens to be their godson.
Exactly. So Kayla walks into this meticulously laid trap, looking gorgeous, completely unbothered, sitting down with her little beverage, and Lance doesn't ease into it.
No, he goes right for the throat.
He just hits her with this convoluted, lawyerly phrasing. Destiny said something to the effect of, Twan says there's supposed to be a rumor about him that he's dating Kayla. Is it just a rumor?
So messy.
And we have to pause here and respect Kayla's execution in this moment. She didn't flinch. She didn't stumble over her words or look for an exit. She just flat out confirmed it, looking him dead in the eye. We didn't want y'all to find out this way. We have went on dates before.
I was standing up in my living room cheering for her, the ownership. But then she tries to explain the timeline. And babes, this is where the entire narrative collapses into sheer chaos.
Total chaos.
I need you to map this timeline out for me because my head was spinning trying to follow her logic. Like, what is she even saying?
The timeline she provided is a masterclass in weaponizing technicalities. Kayla's primary defense is that she knew Twan before Lance and Nell officially brought them together and declared them god-siblings.
Okay, sure.
She claims she was working at a bar and restaurant last year. He was employed there as the security guard, and they started talking and exchanged numbers. At that specific point in time, according to her, they had no idea about the family connection.
Right, because people didn't walk around the bar wearing name tags with their godparents' names on them.
Yeah.
So in that initial moment, it was just two attractive adults flirting. It was innocent.
Innocent, perhaps, in its inception. But the cover-up is always worse than the crime, because she then says that once they finally realized the family connection, they both looked at each other and said, okay, let's take a step back.
Ah, yes. The famous step back.
But we need to deeply analyze what taking a step back actually looks like in Kayla and Twan's reality. According to her own admission, taking a step back involves training together, working out at the gym together, shooting pool, going to the movies, and going to dinner.
Wait, I know. When Lance pressed her, she literally said, we're just still figuring it out right now.
Yeah.
That is the literal dictionary definition of dating.
Exactly.
You didn't take a step back at all. You just moved the location of your dates from the restaurant to the pool hall.
But despite the messy cover-up, I have to say, my heart genuinely broke a little for Lance when he said hearing this rumor felt like taking a physical blow to the chest.
Oh, for sure.
He looked so deeply, profoundly hurt that his daughter and his godson hid this from him. Like, you could see the pain in his eyes.
It's valid for him to be hurt by the deception, absolutely. But let's correctly assign the blame here. He shouldn't be directing the brunt of that anger at Kayla. He should be furious with Twan.
Why Twan specifically?
Because the context matters here. Earlier in the episode, Lance explicitly confronted Twan about this exact rumor. He gave him the floor, to be honest. And Twan looked Lance in the eyes and flat out lied to his face.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. That is the darkest, most manipulative part of this entire situation. Lance is sitting there telling the cameras, Twan just flat out lies. I haven't yet spoke to Twan, but I'm still not having clarity with the whole thing.
It's so bad.
It's entirely hypocritical and frankly cowardly of Twan to let Kayla be the one to face the firing squad while he played Lance for a fool.
It is cowardice. Pure and simple. But we have to talk about Nell's reaction, because Nell is having an absolute catastrophic meltdown over this.
An absolute spiral.
She's spiraling over the age gap, which, okay, I can validate a mother's concern about a significant age gap. But her main visceral issue is that Twan has 2 teenage kids and comes with the baggage of a previous marriage. She is pacing the yard, practically hyperventilating about how unacceptable this is.
Which is incredibly rich coming from Nell, and it brings us perfectly to segment 3, which is power couples or power struggles.
Right.
Who is aligned and who is barely holding it together, because Nell is losing her mind trying to maintain control.
She really is.
Let's bring in the receipts from the Reddit threads, because the internet was aggressively unwilling to tolerate Nell's selective outrage. One of our commenters, Flaky Falcon 818, posed the essential question: why does Nell feel she needs to know Kayla's business? How is Twan her other son? And Kayla's met him 2 years ago.
Such a good point.
And then Better Lingonberry 467 delivered the sociological read of the century, pointing out, Nell really needs to sit TF down before she pop a blood vessel. All them kids and her husband are grown. Let them figure their own ish out.
They hit the nail on the head. Kayla is a fully actualized grown woman. She literally just got promoted to program director at the daycare.
Right.
She's handling her career, her finances, her life. Nell standing in the yard screaming and nagging isn't going to magically stop a grown woman from dating whoever she wants. Do you know what that kind of aggressive, overbearing parenting does to an adult child?
Tell me.
It doesn't breed obedience. It breeds deception. It just pushes her to hide her life from you, which is exactly the dynamic we just watched play out.
Exactly. You are identifying the core mechanism of their family dysfunction. And I'm going to challenge Nell's supposed moral high ground even further. There's a dense layer of hypocrisy here regarding Lance's own romantic history and the resulting family structure.
Oh, the tea.
We had another commenter, Blessed Beyond 28167, pointing out the deeply messy reality of the Fletcher family tree. They brought up the fact that Lance has multiple baby mothers and how Nell is essentially dealing with the consequences of how these men were raised and the environment they were allowed to operate in.
Wow.
The commenter literally wrote that women should probably run from these men anyway. So for Nell to stand in her yard, clutching her pearls, acting shocked and appalled that a messy, complicated dating situation is happening in her own backyard, it requires a stunning level of selective amnesia. She built the environment. She cannot be shocked by the wildlife that thrives in it.
Oof. She built the environment. That is heavy, but it is so accurate. It is the ultimate illusion of control. Nell thinks if she just yells loud enough, if she asserts enough dominance, she can rewrite the timeline and force everyone into these neat, respectable boxes. But you can't control grown adults.
Precisely. We can look at this through the lens of a broken containment unit. Nell spent years building this intricate reactor, her family dynamic, and let the radioactive material of poor communication and blurred boundaries leak everywhere.
And now it's blowing up.
Now she's furious that she's getting burned by the radiation. She has fundamentally lost the power struggle, and her screaming is just the sound of someone realizing they no longer hold the reins.
It is a devastating realization for a mother. But if we want to talk about people fleeing from their responsibilities and avoiding power struggles altogether, we have to take a quick, luxurious flight to Rome, because we need to unpack Kimmy and Tisha's catch-up scene.
Yes. The great international contractor escape. This was a masterclass in the privilege of avoidance.
Babes, I was laughing so hard I spilled my wine. The juxtaposition is incredible. Kimmy is sitting there, beautifully styled, telling Tisha that Marcelo and Maurice are locked in this massive escalating fight over a general contractor who is holding up their major build projects.
Real money on the line.
Real money. The stress is mounting. And what is Marcelo's conflict resolution strategy? He gets frustrated, packs a designer duffel bag, and catches a transatlantic flight to Rome with MJ to watch Kendrick Lamar perform at a pop-up concert.
It is the absolute zenith of financial privilege and emotional avoidance. The psychology of it is staggering. Oh, the general contractor is delaying the commercial build and costing us thousands in holding costs. Let me just catch a luxury flight to Italy to see an American rapper perform.
I mean, I kind of respect it.
And Kimmy is sitting there trying to be the supportive diplomatic wife, saying she's just waiting for the Instagram pictures to drop.
I genuinely love that level of unbothered energy from Marcelo. It's aspirational self-care. While everyone else is arguing over drywall and permits, he is eating gelato near the Coliseum, screaming the lyrics to Not Like Us.
Must be nice.
But meanwhile, Maurice is stuck back in Huntsville, carrying the entire mental and logistical load of the project. Kimmy literally tried to get Maurice to go on the trip to decompress, but she plainly stated he'd only want to take off work.
Which is the defining psychological trait of Maurice. He is pathologically unable to disconnect from the grind. So he is left to stew in the toxic stress of this massive delay, while his business partner is utilizing international travel as an emotional regulation tool.
It's so unbalanced.
But we have to credit Kimmy for seeing clearly through the business failure here. She correctly called out the absurdity of the situation. She noted that if this was any other general contractor, one without personal ties, they would have been aggressively fired weeks ago.
She's not wrong.
Kimmy made the brilliant point that she has fired the guy who cuts her grass for far less incompetence. This business partnership between Maurice and Marsau is hanging by a thread if their primary conflict resolution strategy is one partner enduring the stress while the other utilizes international pop-up concerts to flee.
It is a hilarious power dynamic. Marcelo holds all the cards because he is perfectly willing to just walk away and eat pasta. If I ever get into an argument with you over how to edit this show, I am not yelling. I am just booking a flight to Milan and leaving you with the raw audio files.
And I would meticulously edit those files while questioning all of my life choices, which perfectly mirrors the Maurice and Marsau dynamic. We are trapped by our own work ethics.
Yeah.
But speaking of environments that felt entirely unhinged from reality, we must transition to Trisha's event, the Sad Brunch Drag Show.
Okay, I have to take a deep breath before we dive into this because the level of confusion at this event was genuinely staggering. Let's try to lay out the alleged facts.
Good luck.
Trisha invites the core group of ladies to a drag show. She announces it's her first drag show ever. But the stated theme of this event is sad brunch, which immediately makes zero sense. Why would you theme a daytime drag event around sadness?
It's baffling.
But then Tisha, trying to find some clarity, asks what exactly they are celebrating. And Trisha pivots and says it's actually an alter ego-themed party to celebrate her new beginnings.
The semiotics of this party are a disaster. It's a masterclass in misdirection.
But I love the idea of a new beginnings party. I love a theme. And we have to acknowledge the context. Trisha is leaving a stable 20-year career to launch herself into the highly competitive fitness world. That is a massive, terrifying, beautiful milestone. She is stepping into her power, and that absolutely deserves a celebration.
I don't disagree that a career pivot of that magnitude warrants celebration. However, the execution and the communication were practically non-existent. She essentially threw 3 different concepts into a blender and served the resulting sludge to her guests.
Sludge, you are so bad.
Kimmy shows up, looks around at the vibe, and literally says, "I thought this was a party celebration." Nobody knows how to act or what energy to bring, but the absolute chaotic cherry on top of this disorganized Sunday is when the host, the drag queen, who's just doing their job to hype the crowd, gets on the microphone and screams to the entire venue, "We are here celebrating a bachelorette. Is that true? Make some noise."
I paused the TV. I physically dropped the remote, paused the show, and screamed at my television, "A bachelorette." Trisha's already legally married to Ken.
It was amazing.
The camera dramatically cans to everyone's faces, and they are all just frozen, staring in bewildered horror. Kimmy says in her confessional, perfectly summing up the audience experience, "I'm not only confused about the new beginning, the bachelorette, Trisha and Ken, the whole thing is just confusing to me. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion, but the cars were covered in sequins."
It was incredible, deeply uncomfortable television. The drag host acted as an unintentional agent of chaos, exposing the fraudulent premise of the gathering. And we cannot discuss this brunch without analyzing the arrival of Tisha.
Well, the arrival.
Tisha saunters into the venue, significantly late, while the drag performance is actively happening on stage. Trisha politely tells her she's fashionably late, trying to smooth over the awkwardness. And what does Tisha do? She goes straight to her confessional and delivers a quote, steeped in such profound narcissistic delusion that it belongs in a museum.
What did she say again?
She says, "Well, she got that right. I am fashionably and I am damn late. But guess what? I am the best dressed unlike the rest of them."
Babes, I could not handle the delusion.
Yeah?
The delusion was so thick you could have served it on a platter. She genuinely believed she was giving Anna Wintour at the Met Gala, when in reality she was just giving disrespectfully late to a suburban brunch.
It's a fascinating defense mechanism. Her extreme tardiness is a power play, and her aggressive assertion that she is the best dressed is how she protects her ego from the reality that she was rude to her host. But the absolute best, most redeeming part of this entire chaotic drag show was the brilliant economic structure introduced by the host. The dollar bill rule.
Yes.
The host gets on the mic and sets the terms of engagement. Drag shows are 100% full participation. If you like what you see, you throw the queen $1. If you don't like it, give them $2 so they get better.
I am officially adopting this rule for my entire life. If you don't like someone's outfit, if you don't like their attitude, you don't argue with them, you just hand them 2 crisp $1 bills as a developmental grant. Imagine if we applied this rule to the cast of this show. We could fund an entire municipal government.
We would be entirely bankrupt by the first commercial break. But the lighthearted, chaotic fun of the drag show comes to a violent, screeching halt when Trisha and Ken sit down for their confessional dump. Which actually brings us to segment 1. Messy marriages. Who is putting in the work and who is performing for the cameras?
And we have to deeply unpack the psychology of this segment because it was one of the most jarring tonal shifts I have ever seen on reality television.
It was incredibly dark. We literally go from drag queens collecting dollar bills and people laughing over drinks to Trisha just casually, almost breezily, admitting that during their rough patch, they both actively stepped out on their marriage.
It's so heavy. Let's analyze the language here, because stepped out is the sanitized, PR-friendly reality TV term for infidelity. But Trisha's actual freezing was iconic in the most deeply concerning way possible. She looks into the camera and says, "I spun the block on someone. I did."
Spun the block.
And then she rushes to clarify the timeline, insisting that it happened right after their separation was finalized.
Yeah.
But the kicker, she smiles and adds, "It was a good block to spin."
I mean, the audacity.
My jaw unhinged. A good block to spin. You are a married woman currently claiming to be on a journey of healing and restoring your family. You don't brag about the quality of the infidelity. And then we get to Ken. Apparently, Ken didn't just spin a block. Ken built a subdivision. Trisha reveals he had a community in the DMs. A community.
A thriving, heavily populated metropolis in his direct messages, apparently. But the visual Trisha painted to illustrate her anger was completely unhinged. She says she discovered this community, she blocked him, and then her retaliation was to physically throw condoms at him.
That is so wild.
She is sitting on a couch under professional lighting, broadcasting to millions of viewers that her conflict resolution strategy was throwing prophylactics at her husband because he was cultivating a village of women in his phone.
It breaks my heart for their actual real-life family. They have children who will grow up and have access to the internet, and they are just sitting there on national television saying, "Yeah, we both made massive destructive mistakes. We stepped out. I threw some condoms at his head. I spun the block on an ex. But look at us now. We're better together." No, you are not. You are bleeding out on camera and calling it a glow-up.
You are touching on the exact mechanism of performative healing. It is the casualness that is so deeply terrifying. They are discussing profound marital betrayal, the shattering of vows with the exact same emotional cadence one might use to discuss a mildly disappointing trip to the grocery store. It is the weaponization of therapy speak.
Yes, the therapy speak is so real.
They use phrases like rough patch and new beginnings to gloss over the fact that their foundation is completely destroyed.
It connects perfectly back to the analogy of the Airbnb we are sitting in right now. Like, we are lighting this sage, we are waving the smoke into the corners of the room, desperately trying to cleanse the space. But we both logically know that if there is an actual residual colonial ghost in that upstairs bedroom, this little bundle of burning leaves isn't going to evict it.
Not a chance.
Trisha and Ken are saging a house that is fundamentally structurally haunted by their past. You can throw a new beginnings party, but the ghosts of the DM sliders and the spun blocks are still permanently living in their guest room.
That is a flawless, deeply accurate metaphor. They are burning the sage of reality TV confessionals, hoping the smoke clears the air and secures their storyline. But the foundation of the house is rotting, and the viewers are entirely exhausted by the performance. I have the Reddit verdict right here, and the Snark squad sees straight through the facade.
What are they saying?
User Octwist2936 summarized the collective exhaustion perfectly, begging the network, take Ken off too. He's such an obvious liar and emotionally immature as heck.
And the viewers are so incredibly right. It feels entirely manufactured. If you were truly, genuinely doing the deep, painful, agonizing work of repairing a marriage after that level of mutual betrayal and disrespect, you would not be discussing it with a self-satisfied smirk at a drag show.
Yeah.
You would be in intense, private, off-camera therapy.
Exactly. What we are witnessing is the commodification of their own trauma to secure a paycheck. They are performing the role of the couple working through it because it guarantees them screen time. But the cracks in the performance are glaring.
So glaring.
When Tricia says it was a good block to spin, that is not the language of a woman who has found peace and forgiveness. That is the language of a woman suffering a severe narcissistic injury, desperately trying to prove to the audience and to her husband that she still has viable romantic options because her husband publicly embarrassed her with his community of women. It's not a restorative statement. It is a retaliatory strike.
It is so incredibly dark when you strip away the reality TV gloss. Which brings us perfectly to the absolute climax of the episode, the showdown. Tisha versus Destiny. And babes, I need to take a massive sip of this wine before we even begin to unpack the psychological warfare that took place at this table.
Pour a heavy glass, because what we witnessed was a terrifyingly precise masterclass in low blows, invalidation, and tactical deflection. Let's establish the catalyst for the war. Tisha is furious. Why? Because she discovered that Destiny was joking around with Kimmy behind her back, specifically mocking Tisha's communication style and the chaotic nature of her relationships.
And Tisha is so genuinely triggered by this discovery. She gets incredibly vulnerable at the table. And honestly, despite all her usual delusion, this moment hit me really hard. I felt it in my chest. Yeah. She looks at Destiny and says that making her a joking matter brought back deeply buried memories of people bullying her in middle school. The feeling of a group of girls laughing and whispering about her behind her back, that is a real, raw, unhealed wound. I don't care how old you are, middle school trauma leaves a scar. If I came to you, my best friend, and told you that your jokes made me feel like the victim of middle school bullies again, I would expect you to immediately apologize, validate my pain, and change your behavior.
I hear your empathy, and I understand why you feel that way. Yes, in a healthy, emotionally regulated friendship, that is exactly the response you'd get. But I am going to challenge you on this premise.
Yeah.
Because we are not dealing with emotionally regulated people. We are dealing with Tisha.
Okay, that's fair.
Is Tisha actually being vulnerable? Or is she weaponizing a childhood wound to hold Destiny emotionally hostage over a relatively mild critique of her communication style? Because Destiny doesn't buy the vulnerability for a second. Destiny doesn't apologize. Instead, Destiny initiates a brutal clash of realities. Tisha tries to set a boundary. You say something that's disrespectful or rude and you laugh about it, I'm going to call you out on it. And Destiny, with zero hesitation, flat out rejects the premise. Do you feel like you owe her an apology? No. I apologize for her feelings way too many times at this point.
Destiny was cold. She was absolute ice. To look at a friend who is crying about being bullied and say, I'm done apologizing for your feelings, is staggering.
She was ice cold, but she was calculating. Destiny claims Tisha chronically plays the victim. She states that Tisha forgets stuff that did happen and remembers stuff that didn't happen. This is a fundamental breakdown of shared reality. And then Destiny decides to bring the historical receipts to prove her loyalty.
Oh, the dog. She brings up the driveway incident. She looks at Tisha and says, when TikTok died, I went in your driveway holding you while you was crying.
Oh my God, the dog. TikTok or Tiffany, depending on who you ask in the transcript, which is a hilarious detail in itself. But holding your friend in a driveway while they sob over the death of their beloved pet, that is beautiful. That is the definition of profound, in-the-trenches loyalty. But Tisha immediately tries to brush it off, waving her hand and yelling, that's different. How on earth is holding you through grief different from being a loyal friend?
It is different to Tisha because it doesn't serve the specific narrative she is trying to construct in this exact moment. Tisha's current narrative requires Destiny to be the villain. Acknowledging Destiny's past comfort ruins the victim complex. And this is the precise moment where the fight leaves the realm of petty reality TV drama and enters the stratosphere of absolute scorched earth cruelty.
Buckle up. Destiny realizes Tisha will never concede, so she goes for the jugular. She points out that she has aggressively defended Tisha against Martel for 20 years. Tisha attempts to counter by claiming Destiny is actually loyal to the very people who attack her marriage. And Destiny responds by detailing how she has literally put her physical body between Tisha and another man wearing a referee outfit in college to protect her.
And then the low blow. The tactical nuke. Babes. I physically gasped. The air left my lungs. Destiny looks dead into Tisha's eyes, her face completely stoic, and says, the only person that don't defend you is your husband.
Devastating, tactical, lethal. And to ensure the knife twisted all the way in, Destiny adds, I meant that. I defended you to your own husband.
It was so agonizingly hard to watch. You could physically see the life force drain out of Tisha's face. You can see her soul leave her body. Because it wasn't just a shady reality TV read about a bad wig or a tacky dress. It was the darkest, most profound fear Tisha has about her own life, spoken aloud by her friend. And how does Tisha react to having her deepest insecurity exposed?
She loses it.
She completely, totally dysregulates. She loses all control. She screams that Destiny is a horrible friend. She calls her a snake. And then, in a fit of pure, unadulterated rage, she calls her a hoe.
Or, as Tisha tries to frantically and absurdly backtrack later in her solo confessional, a whore girl, which she attempts to claim is just a common figure of speech. I assure you, looking through the annals of linguistic history, calling someone a whore girl is not a colloquial idiom used to express mild frustration. It is a direct, character-assassinating insult meant to inflict maximum damage.
It's so toxic. And the entire showdown culminates with Destiny calmly standing up, storming out of the venue, and standing on the curb waiting for an Uber, while Tisha is left inside screaming at the producers, "Get me a car out of here before I beat her ass." Just absolute, unmitigated chaos tearing through the middle of the sad brunch.
The event truly lived up to its name. But let's elevate this from just recapping the drama to analyzing the underlying mechanics, which brings us to segment 2, truth or deflection. Who is being honest and who is dodging everything? Because this fight is the ultimate case study in reality TV deflection.
I want to push back on the deflection narrative for a second. I need to defend Tisha on this one specific point, because I truly believe Destiny did dodge the core issue. Think about the conversational mechanics. If I come to you and say, "Hey, when you joke about me with other people behind my back, it hurts my feelings and makes me feel humiliated like I did in middle school," the only correct, emotionally intelligent response is, "I'm so sorry I made you feel that way. I won't do that again."
That's if you're dealing with rational people.
Right. But Destiny completely bypassed that. She immediately brought up Martel. She brought up a 20-year history. She brought up Tisha's husband. Even if what Destiny is saying about Marsau is 100% factually accurate, it has absolutely nothing to do with the original complaint about the jokes. That is the ultimate deflection strategy.
Okay, I hear your heartfelt defense of Tisha, and structurally you are right. Destiny did not answer the specific prompt Tisha provided, but let me introduce you to the broader sociological context that the internet likes to call the Delulu factor. Let's look at the receipts from the viewers who are watching this pattern repeat year after year.
Hit me with the Reddit comments.
User Duper Pragmatism 80 wrote, "Cause Tisha is draining, and the relationships she tried to have didn't work." Somerset Park 2 added the psychological layer. "Letitia is draining and emotionally stunted with this you not my friend crap at the age of 40-something. And Blessed Mama 9737 summarized the collective patience of the audience by simply stating, "So you're Delulu too. Bye, Tisha."
Ouch. The squad does not hold back. They are savage.
They are savage because they recognize the pattern. Here is why the audience sides with Destiny's deflection. The viewers feel, and I agree, that Tisha purposely and strategically initiates these intense confrontations over relatively minor slights, like a joke about her communication style, to deliberately draw attention away from her own glaring catastrophic marital issues.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Destiny bringing up Marsau wasn't a random, out-of-nowhere deflection. It was Destiny hitting the core radioactive truth that Tisha refuses to face. Tisha desperately wants to fight with Destiny about the concept of loyalty because having a real fight with Marsau about his chronic lack of defense is too psychologically terrifying for her. It would break her reality. So Tisha is deflecting her massive, suppressed marital anger onto her female friendships.
Oh, wow. Okay, when you lay out the psychology of it like that, that is a heavy, devastating read. Like she has all this pent-up rage about feeling unprotected by her husband, but she knows confronting him won't work, so she needs a safe target for her anger. And Destiny, who has always been loyal, seems like a safer target than the man she is married to.
Precisely. You hit the exact nerve. Tisha is displacing her marital trauma onto her platonic friendships, and Destiny, to her immense credit, finally saw right through the matrix and refused to play her assigned role in the game anymore. Destiny's comment about Marsau was essentially her saying, "I see exactly what you are doing. I am not going to be the emotional punching bag for the anger you are too afraid to direct at your husband."
It is a heartbreaking dynamic for two women who clearly used to love each other. And it makes me think about how much of reality television is just people projecting their deepest wounds onto the wrong target.
It is the defining feature of the genre. We watch these women in these glamorous, meticulously styled outfits, sitting in expensive restaurants, fighting over real estate deals and open houses, and you forget that underneath the wealth and the glam squads, they are operating on pure, unhealed trauma.
Exactly. And that's what made Tisha crying about middle school feel so jarring. Which brings us to segment 4. Two real moments. What felt a little too real and hit close to home, because that moment stripped away all the Bravo-style gloss. When she said, "I don't want to be a joking matter from people I consider a friend," you could hear the actual quiver in her vocal cords.
You really could.
That wasn't a produced reality TV moment. That was a 13-year-old girl sitting alone in a cafeteria feeling entirely humiliated. That kind of core trauma doesn't magically evaporate just because you turn 40 and get a reality show. If anything, the cameras magnify the paranoia. To have someone you thought was your safe space giggling about you behind your back, it's entirely too real. It stops being entertaining and just becomes sad.
It is sad, and it explains the vitriol of her reaction. But we also have to acknowledge the other too real moment, which was Destiny's weaponization of the truth. The only person that don't defend you is your husband.
The actual physical chill that went down my spine when she said that.
Let's truly analyze the sheer cruelty, but also the terrifying, undeniable accuracy of that insult. In the ecosystem of reality television, shade is the currency. It is expected. You attack someone's outfit. You attack their event, like pointing out the absurdity of a new beginnings party being called a bachelorette. You attack their bank account or their business acumen. Those are the rules of engagement.
Right.
But verbally attacking the fundamental security of a woman's marriage, stating plainly that she is unprotected by the man who vowed to protect her directly to her face. That crosses a massive boundary from typical reality TV shade into calculated psychological warfare. It is the nuclear option, mutually assured destruction.
It was a friendship-ending truth bomb. It wasn't just Destiny saying, "I don't like you right now." It was Destiny saying, "The person who's supposed to love you the most in this entire world doesn't even respect you enough to protect you, so why do you have the audacity to come for me?" That is so incredibly dark.
It is the kind of insult that fundamentally alters brain chemistry. You cannot unhear truth that sharp. Even if Tisha and Destiny are forced by producers to sit down and somehow make amends next season, the dynamic is permanently broken. Tisha will look at Destiny and always know that Destiny sees the fatal, bleeding flaw in her marriage and is perfectly willing to use it as a weapon to destroy her in an argument.
It brings everything full circle. It connects right back to the exact vibe of this entire weekend. That comment Destiny made was exactly like the jump scare on the ghost tour last night.
How so? Connect the dots for me.
Think about it. When you go on a ghost tour, you are walking around knowing you're in a scary environment. You expect the creepy stories, the atmospheric fog, the dramatic pauses. You are prepared for the manufactured fear. But when the guide suddenly drops his voice, the lights flicker, and you feel an actual physical freezing cold hand brush against the back of your shoulder.
I would scream.
You would. Because it instantly stops being a fun, spooky game and becomes entirely terrifyingly real. Your nervous system hijacks your brain. That is exactly what Destiny did to Tisha. Tisha was prepared for a reality TV argument about jokes and loyalty. She was prepared for the manufactured drama. But Destiny took them off the reality TV set and shoved Tisha into the freezing cold, dark, undeniable truth of her real life.
That is a phenomenal comparison. The illusion of safety, both the safety of the friendship and the safety of the reality TV format, was completely shattered in an instant. Destiny broke the fourth wall of Tisha's delusion.
Babes, I need another massive sip of wine just processing the emotional weight of that. This episode wasn't just drama, it was a psychological thriller. It was an absolute emotional roller coaster.
It truly was a marathon of interpersonal dysfunction. And as we sit here in the aftermath, processing the wreckage of these relationships, we have to wrap up and thank the true heroes of this journey.
Yes, the squad.
To the Snark Squad, thank you for hanging out with us in Salem, for drinking the wine, for burning the sage, and for surviving the ghost with us. Both the literal colonial ones lurking outside this Airbnb and the deeply traumatized ones haunting these Huntsville marriages.
Yes. Thank you, babes, for being here with us in the mess. We love unpacking this with you. Please remember to share the Snark side with a friend who loves the drama and the psychology as much as we do. And please take a second to rate and review the show on whatever app you are listening on. It honestly means the world to us and helps the community grow. Babes, we started tonight with spooky ghost stories in the freezing cold and ended up unpacking devastating relationship chaos, as we do.
As we always do. But before we blow out these candles and try to get some sleep in this creaky house, I want to leave you with a deeply provocative thought, heavily inspired by the reality TV sociology threads we were scrolling through earlier. We just spent an hour vigorously judging these messy marriages, dissecting every flaw, every deflection, and every failure.
We really did.
We diagnosed their performative healing and their weaponized trauma. But we must remember, these situations, while containing real people, are highly constructed, pressurized environments orchestrated by producers. So the question is, are we, the viewers, the actual ghosts haunting these relationships?
Oh, well.
By demanding this intense level of drama, by requiring this toxic, spinning the block energy to keep us entertained on a Saturday night, are we the fundamental reason these people can't just heal and have a normal, quiet life? Do we require their dysfunction for our amusement?
Oh my God, that is deeply terrifying to think about. We are the hauntings. We are the entities feeding on their energy.
Think about our complicity while you lock your doors tonight. Stay spooky, stay self-aware, and we will see you on the Snark side.